Is online shopping destroying retail? Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian.heise here, and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee and let's have a look at this article from Jason Murphy, in which he argues that online shopping is killing Australian shopping centres. Now, in the past, I discovered the Dead Mall series in the United States. You know, when they go and adventure through these abandoned shopping centres, and they're all just like post-apocalyptic, and they're fantastic to watch, really good videos. So I thought, I got to try this here in Australia. So just one Sunday we were down the Gold Coast, I went through Australia Fair, and it wasn't quite as exciting as some of the Dead Mall episodes in the US. And if you haven't seen them, everyone, I encourage you to look them up. They're quite entertaining. But it was interesting just seeing how all of the empty shops in Australia Fair that were hidden as walls, or that were turned into eating areas, or were display areas for other shops, all these tricks that they were doing to hide the high vacancy rate that they had. They even converted one shop into a leave a book, take a book space where you could borrow a book. Smart, very smart, but interesting to see. They would definitely, you'd rather have a real business in there paying you money than just an abandoned tenancy jazzed up to be something else, or a children's play space. So have a look at that video. But there's one thing we need to remember. Before we go through this, I want to draw your attention to this information here. This is from the Shopping Centre Council of Australia. This is some latest research. Now, if you look here, you've got the countries at the left, and there's the square meters of GLA per 100 people. Now, we're pretty high. We're higher than Singapore and New Zealand. We're double Singapore and New Zealand. This is the amount of gross lettable area. I think that's the term. I get them all confused all the time. GLA, yes, gross lettable area for retail, shopping centres essentially. How many square metres of shopping centre we have per 100 people. So if every Australian were to go to a shopping centre, at least at the time this data was published, we'd have more than 1 square metre, guys. Luxurious, each. Now, in the States, they've got 215 square metres per person. So you'd have 2 square meters per person. Just think about that, and think how big their population is. That's why there's so many of these abandoned shopping centers. Canada's a third higher than us. They're 156 as well. And you go down to Singapore 54, New Zealand 50, the UK, Japan, France, China, and Germany down at just 21. So it shows you we're pretty high. We're pretty high. Our market size is, what are we? We're much higher. Look at China. Look at China's market size, half of that of the US. Then you've got Canada, then Japan, then UK, and then Australia. And look at our population. I mean, look at the China's population, 1.3 billion. So I don't think we're going to have the same exciting abandoned malls or shopping centers here in Australia. Well, just because we don't have as many of them. I think there'll be ways of repurposing them. They'll be hiding shops. Hiding empty shops, empty retailers. So let me know. Have a look. Watch this video if you haven't seen it already. And then just, next time you're wandering around the shops, if you can, if you don't live in Victoria, and just keep an eye out for these hidden spaces. So let's have a look at Jason's article. So online shopping is killing Australian shopping centres amid the pandemic. And have you made more online purchases? I occasionally do. Now, I very rarely did in the past. Shopping centres are lying empty thanks to the pandemic, and now face another challenge that could be the final nail in the coffin. The future of Australia's shopping centres was unclear even before the pandemic, and he's right. It felt like every other episode would be another one about a retailer going under. We were going to go down the American path of abandoned malls or dead malls. Yeah, I don't think we'll be that. I don't think that will happen here in Australia. Was online shopping going to kill them all? The pandemic has shaken faith in the sector even further. On Tuesday, one of the biggest companies that owns shopping centres came clean to shareholders on how business has been going over the last year. The company, called the Shopping Centres Australasian Property Group, owns dozens of shopping malls across Australia. The centres it owns aren't the giant ones with a Uniqlo and a cinema. They're mostly just local ones with a Woolworths and a few other shops, many of them in rural and regional Australia, so they're gonna cop a lot harder. If any sort of shopping centre is going to survive the pandemic, it should be the ones with a supermarket, the ones outside the big cities, but even these guys are struggling. They admitted their shopping centres were worth $88 million less because of the impact of the pandemic. And that was even before Victoria's second wave got going. And we're starting to see this with some of the big retailers, because the valuation of their shopping centres is dependent on their occupancy rates. That's why Australia Fair hiding at least from the public, the empty shops. I mean, it may create a better atmosphere for people shopping there, but it's not going to hide the reality that their vacancy rates are not doing too well, and that'll affect the valuation of the asset. So just keep that in mind if you're renting a shop somewhere and they offer you this great deal to sign you on. Remember, you are making them money by signing that piece of paper. So demand a better deal. I wish I had known this when I was negotiating, but that's the breaks. They're keeping tenants in, but only by deferring rents and offering lower rents to keep businesses in place. The CEO said they will continue to chase tenants for around $23 million in rental payments that were deferred, but they expect most of that money will never be paid. So wither them all. As 2020 dawned, the shopping centre business was already looking weak, with the Australian economy limping along, retailers going broke left, right and centre, and online shopping gathering momentum. The coronavirus has been a disaster, an acute hit in the short term, plus two changes that hurt the medium to long term, rapidly increasing the popularity of online shopping and hurting the economy badly for the next several years. We can see here, I mean, it's not as exciting as the US empty malls, but still, it's a little shocking. As the next graph shows, the share price of shopping centre owners has been slammed since the pandemic arrived on our shores. Centre Group and Vicinity Centres have been hit even harder than Shopping Centres Australasian Property Group. Their shopping centres are less focused on the basic food shopping that has gone so well in the pandemic and more focused on clothes, food courts, cinema and luxuries. And one thing that's interesting was Stockland. Remember last year we were looking at some of their releases. They'd already divested $500 million worth of their centres, and they were looking to divest another $500 million and putting it in logistics. Seems smart. Centre owners Westfield Malls in Australia, Vicinity Centres owns Chadstone and Emporium in Melbourne, both very fancy shopping destinations, plus Chatsworth in Sydney and Queen's Plaza in Brisbane. The next chart shows one big reason why shopping centres are feeling forlorn. Clothing spending has taken a massive hit in Australia and barely recovered before Victorians stopped buying clothes again. I mean, there you go. Clothing spending is down. Now, I guess I'm not in the demo. I'm a middle-aged father of 5. I don't go clothes shopping that often, to be honest. Although when I did, I used to get like nice suits and things like that. But working from home, I've abandoned the tie, I've abandoned the suits. I still got all the pocket squares Rachel made me, but I've just gotten so lazy. It's terrible. It really is. The fall in clothing spending is poison for malls that depend on selling fancy threads. Take Chadstone Shopping Centre. It calls itself the fashion capital, and it's the biggest mall in the country, boasting, Bulgari, a Fendi, Hermes, and a Prada. But for as long as Victorians are all sitting at home in their tracky dacks, it's just a big empty space. On the 24th of July, Vicinity Centres, which own Chadstone, said this: customer visitation across our portfolio is 68% of the prior year level, with 83% of stores trading. That was meant as good news, but to me it seems that when around 1 in 5 shops in a shopping centre is closed, it looks pretty bad. And then, of course, the Victorian government introduced a huge lockdown and curfew on August 2nd, completely ruining things for big shopping centres. While shops are closed, we're developing a new habit, online shopping. That's great news for retailers, but not great for shopping mall owners. As the next graph shows, online shopping used to have a predictable seasonal spike around Christmas. This one is having a huge lift in the middle of the year. That will relax a little bit once the pandemic is over, but it will never go back to where it was. Supermarkets and bottle shops are going strong, so is Bunnings. But many small retail businesses will be able to offer only lower rents in future. That means lower revenue for shopping center owners. For some malls, it might also mean it's time to close. So there we have it, everyone. An interesting take from Jason Murphy, and just looking at the increase in online sales. Do you think this is going to hurt the big malls? Do you think we'll see a change in our square meter, the size of our shopping center market? Do we need this many here in Australia? Will you get a jump in logistics? And how many of the boutique places will go under? Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below. Have you been buying your clothing online? I had some staff that did that, actually. They went to a website, a dodgy one, and they got a virus and nearly encrypted my entire computer. It's one advantage to not having staff anymore, guys. Less risk. As always, thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. If you're a fan and want to support the content I create here, there are a few ways you can. You can join the channel on YouTube or Patreon. You can support us using our affiliate links at Amazon, eBay, Independent Reserve, or Kucoin. You can buy our merch from HeiseSays, use Gold Pass from the Perth Mint, or support us via PayPal. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. I'll see you next time.